Hey guys, did you know that there's something called a self-directed IRA? Meaning you could actually use your retirement account, your 401k, your 403b to invest in many different types of investments like real estate, and you never have to pay taxes. That's what we're going to be talking about in today's segment. All right, guys, so you see the majority of people that they have a traditional IRA, usually these traditional IRAs are usually opened up with either a bank or some sort of brokerage house, right? So whenever you have an IRA, most people are investing in things like stocks, you're investing in things like bonds, you're investing in things like ETFs, maybe some mutual funds. I mean, you have many different forms of investments that you could be using inside your IRA. So you see a lot of people end up getting frustrated because they don't want to invest in stocks, bonds, ETFs, mutual fund. They don't want to do any of that. So what they'd rather go and do is they'd rather invest into what's called a self-directed IRA.
No, God, please, no, no!
Now, what a self-directed, in simple words, what it allows you to do is it allows you to usually invest in other forms of investments that are not the typical stocks, bonds, ETFs, mutual funds. So it allows you to mainly invest in things like real estate, things like loans, and that's a little bit more technical, but I'm going to give you the basic way of how you go about doing this. Okay, so let's say that you have a retirement account, right? Say, for example, you have a 401k or you have an IRA or you have a 403b, and you're tired of investing in things like this. So what you would sometimes do is you would go to a company that does what's called self-directed IRAs. And let's just say that your 401k, you moved it over to this company that does self-directed IRAs, and they will allow you to invest in things like, for example, real estate. So now let's say that you wanted to go buy a property, right? You wanted to go and buy an investment property, and that's the key. You cannot use this self-directed IRA to go and buy a primary residence. You must go and buy an investment property. So let's say you found that property, perfect. You realize that you want to invest in this building or whatever it is, and this building costs $1 million. Well, you see, the reality is a lot of people, what they really love is that they can go and take out the $500,000, they can go put a down payment and get a loan for the remaining amount. But you see, when you have a self-directed IRA, you cannot do this, meaning that you must take out the full amount of money and you must go to pay the property off in cash. So in other words, you cannot, absolutely not, take out what's called leverage, which is called a loan. Now, the other thing that you want to be really careful with is you cannot actually participate in the investment, meaning you are not participating in the investment of the purchase of the property. You could only direct the funds going into that investment. But you see, the reality is if you go and buy this property, so let's say, for example, you went and wanted to pay that property off in cash. So you go and take your $500,000, you pay that property off in cash. And let's say that property has now increased in value from $500,000, has now gone up in value to $700,000. Well, you see, the reality is when you turn around and sell that property, all of the funds have to go back into that IRA. So now, yes, you made $200,000, but it's inside an IRA still. Now, this is where the problem lies, is that when you turn around and take the money out of the IRA, you will need to pay taxes when you go and withdraw the money out of the IRA. So the reality is that a lot of people are using retirement accounts, are using their 401ks, their IRAs, their 403bs to buy real estate. But instead of you going and buying real estate, you could actually go and buy a property. You can go spend and buy the $1 million property, put a $100,000 or $200,000 down payment, and you could actually pay no taxes on the real estate if it's done the right way. So for those of you that are thinking about doing self-directed IRAs, I want you to be really careful. The fees are sometimes extremely high in these companies that they're charging you. And then on top of that, I've seen many people many times, they have $500,000 sitting in there. And the self-directed IRA company that is holding the money, guess what they're doing with your money? They're working with your money while you don't have it invested here. So again, be very careful with these self-directed IRAs, not only because of the fees that they charge, but you want to be very careful because once you turn around and sell the property, all of the rental income that it generates must go back into the IRA, and you're not allowed to touch that money without having to pay taxes whenever you go and withdraw it.
Hey, if you really enjoyed this video, make sure to comment, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell if you're on YouTube or Facebook or Instagram. Wherever you see this, make sure you follow us, because every single day we're bringing extremely important content so you can make better decisions with your money and ultimately be retirement ready.